Camera.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back to the Tuesday morning Super Show. Today's Tuesday, right, Pete?
To the
Yeah.
best of my
To the
recollection.
best of our recollection, today is Tuesday. We will be open today at 3 o'clock. Don't forget, we have AD&D with me at 6 o'clock. 6.
AD and you.
Oh, boy.
You.
This is going to get goofy. Y'all come in and play some AD&D. We're gonna do some old school stuff. I've been looking through some things last night, trying to decide how I wanna chart this one up. We also have trivia on Thursday. Go check the Discord. We put a bunch of information about there. There's going to be league and running point totals and bounty categories and 15% off all food and drink for your team while you are at trivia. So that's coming on Thursday.
Bounties?
So come in for that, yes. There will be prizes. Prizes. $5 per person entry, and that gets you a drink ticket, which is you can get for...
Please.
Go ahead and drop that in the chat topic.
Thank
All right,
you,
there we
Dog
go.
Dad.
We were having a struggle with the rundown today because there's really only a couple things going on.
I just want to hear you explain this
Yeah.
as well.
Okay. We can actually talk about initiative in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons too. So yes, come in on Thursday for trivia. Come hang out with us. It's going to be fun. Anyway, whew, what a day. Okay, so breaking news this morning. The judge has stopped the injunction for the FTC to challenge the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Simultaneous, the UK CMA has now removed their injunction, is going into active negotiations with Microsoft to see what they could do to get the deal closed. Because Europe, Japan, and the US have all approved it already, and the CMA does not want them to come to just go through with the acquisition.
Yeah.
Without the United Kingdom, which basically Microsoft is threatened to do. So it looks like this is going to go. Mallow was in the chat while we were still in the thing screen, taking his victory lap about this. The FTC still has time to appeal, and they can still hit Microsoft with some other antitrust violations if they do anything. So it's not over, but it's pretty much over.
Yeah, that was kind of, and if I'm interpreting this correctly, once the whole FTC thing, and the judge is like, yeah, it's not a good enough argument, is the CMA kind of like, yeah, I guess.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Well, there you go.
Some of the kind of highlights from the stuff is the judge bought Microsoft's argument that the Switch falls under the greater umbrella of the stuff, so they were allowed to use the Switch numbers.
Okay.
As part of the market analysis, which I know we had discussed a lot before.
Judge does not play video games.
No. No. We did talk. I mean, it really appeared that the FTC was really understanding the market and what was going on there, but not well enough.
Yeah.
To stop Microsoft from acquiring Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to, we've covered this a lot. Taylor was a big fan of this acquisition. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is good or bad?
I think, okay, so her being a big fan, I think, is like a very general statement about it. I think we come down on the same side. And actually, a chatter in TikTok just now said what I think a lot of us are thinking, like, you can't make Blizzard worse than it's been the last few years. So, hey, maybe this will be the shot in the arm to pick it up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's going to bring a lot of stuff to Game Pass. It's going to increase the accessibility of a lot of games.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, it will.
Yeah. Rumor has it Diablo 4 is coming to Game Pass.
Which means you'll get like Game Pass exclusive skins and stuff like that. Which, as a Game Pass person, yay! I did buy the game. I'm a little cheesed about that. I just bought the game.
There's a lot of people are going to be a little cheese like, dang, got it, now I got to do.
Yeah, I was sitting there on a Saturday. I was like, should I? Yeah, I guess I will.
So they've basically, this deal is basically going to close next week.
It has to.
Provided that no other weird hurdles come up. So
July 18th was the deadline.
Yep, that's the deadline.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The more I thought about it, the judge was like, I don't see any reason why this would like harm competitiveness in gaming for really the lowest console seller to pick this up. And I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I guess that's right. They are on the bottom of the heap, so to speak, in a lot of things. But also the argument of like, well, it'll take away competitiveness. How many new console makers are coming to market?
It's not. I don't even think it's necessarily about console makers. I think this is more about having the. It's very reminiscent of the old Paramount stuff from back in the day, right? So there were some court cases back in the early 20th century about movie theaters because the studios used to own the theaters.
Okay.
Right, and they had to break them all up because they were doing some really goofy stuff.
Yeah.
With keeping movies out, keeping movies in. This is the early era of the film industry, and it kind of reminds me of that, right? Is if the people who are presenting the entertainment are the same people that own the production companies that are making the entertainment. This is why I've been,
fair.
on record on this show and the other shows that I do. I have generally been against this acquisition. Right? I'm not a big fan of big corporate mergers. I'm not a big fan of these acquisitions. And again, it just smells a little early movie theater to me.
That's fair. That being said, let me clarify. Like, I'm not a big fan of big mergers either. But I feel like, I guess it's kind of a submission because I feel like we're at a point with gaming and a lot of things where I'm like,
what are you going to do?
well, it's going to happen anyway. Now, if we start seeing talks where it's like, well, Sony and Microsoft Xbox division are going to merge, then I'll definitely be like, that's probably not good for gaming.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that when the EU ruled that it was going to be okay, it was, this is a vertical integration, not horizontal, right? So it's not like Microsoft's buying Nintendo and cutting out consoles.
Yeah.
Right.
Mel made a good point too. They're so enthused, Microsoft, with the judge's announcement that they laid off another 300 people this morning and more on the way. Yeah, I mean, we could have another topic about that, but like, getting a $69 billion deal approved and then being like, by the way, workers, so long.
Is there any significant benefit for the little people in this merger? I mean, again, it really depends on how you feel about things like Game Pass, right? For people who use Game Pass, right, this is going to increase the amount of stuff that is offered on Game Pass significantly.
It's a huge deal if you have Game Pass.
Yeah, you're going to see, and I have I have Game Pass and I use it on my PC a lot. So I think you're going to see stuff like old school StarCraft stuff, like the full campaigns coming to Game Pass for free.
That'd be cool.
You'll probably see a lot of the older Warcraft games hit Game Pass for free. You will probably see World of Warcraft be included in your Game Pass subscription, right?
That'd be the move.
And I think it is the move. Yeah, I mean that's really the biggest thing for it. And again, I think the Game Pass is a fairly good deal. I think that I am concerned that at some point Microsoft's really going to jack the price.
I think they raised it by $1 a few months ago.
Yeah. So it's $15.99 a month?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. That's what I've heard. Someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it's $15.99 a month.
Yeah. Which, it's kind of gone up. It used to be you could get the Xbox only for $5 a month, and now I think it's $10 a month. I think that's changed in the past year or so. It's crept in, and whenever they started Game Pass, of course, they were like, you can get it for $1. And that's not a thing anymore.
Well, and Chad's bringing like the next generation of consoles is going to need 5 to 6 terabytes for local storage or pay for digital storage.
Yeah. I see game streaming becoming a more and more of a thing.
Yes. And I'll say I've used the streaming function, the cloud gaming function on Game Pass, and it works okay.
Okay.
Right? Like where you're streaming the game before you fully download it.
Yes.
Right?
It's a great way to test out games.
It is, as long as that game does not involve timing in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
Don't play first-person shooters.
Don't play fighting games on cloud streaming.
No.
It won't it won't work very well. But I've tested out some games like Yakuza, a couple of the Yakuza games, Shadowrun, a few other things. I've done with the game streaming. Again, not a terrible thing to just try something before you spend all the time downloading it.
And deleting your other games to make space. Yeah. Is the only benefit for us is more games while they cash in for millions, if not billions. Is that right? Yes.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. The concern I have about it, again, not generally a fan of big mergers like this, is it when it gets to this scale, you kind of set a precedent. Like we were okay, or I was okay, and a lot of people were, with Microsoft kind of buying up indie studios when they were focusing on indie games. We're like, well, that means those studios get funding and they get good QA and stuff like that. But buying a major studio like this, kind of like, what does that mean for the future? Do we see a deal like, say, Sony buying Square Enix go through with no problem after this?
And I guess that's really, and see, Microsoft wanted King. Yep, that's what they wanted. They want that Candy Crush money.
Yep.
The mobile side of it is, again, the thing that everybody kind of ignored in every news story about this.
Everyone always ignores it.
Right, and they forget about it. And we talked about this, so go check out the YouTube channel. We talked about this a few weeks ago, where mobile gaming is a huge, huge component of the total gaming market. Yeah, please God, Elon trying to buy Activision. I heard something about that, and I was like, oh, dear God. First off, I don't think Elon's got the money anymore.
No.
Right?
No.
I'm pretty sure Elon is going to run himself.
Do you want to pay $8 a month to connect to the Overwatch servers? You can have it on your machine and just play against bots and training grounds. But if you want to connect to the internet with it, $8 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I guess is Xbox Gold.
I guess the question is, do we see Sony now doing a couple of these? Microsoft has now bought Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. Does Sony...
Does Sony start doing it?
Yeah.
I feel like this is it for Microsoft for a while. If there's another...
But does Sony do it? Does Sony start buying studios?
Probably. Especially with the
Does Sony buy something like Rockstar?
If they can, maybe. I mean, it's
somebody else brought up Naughty Dog.
That would be the one to buy. Naughty Dog has buttered their bread since the PS1 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the one game you think of immediately with the PS1 PlayStation launch?
Oh, what's it? Ratchet and Clank? No.
Crash Bandicoot for me.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot.
That's the one everybody thinks of. I think. Yeah, it sets a precedent, especially with the news about Microsoft thinking about buying Square Enix, thinking about buying Sega. Yeah.
Oh, Sony already owns Naughty Dog.
Do they?
Sony Interactive Entertainment already owns Naughty Dog.
Well, look at us.
Again, I think Rockstar would be the one that I would go for.
That'd be a big get.
That'd be a huge get. Yep, PlayStation Studios is their parent company.
Wow. Huh. When did that happen?
I don't know. I'll have to go back and look it up. Yeah. Sony could buy Square Enix. Sony could buy Rockstar. I think Rockstar would be the biggest. Like, if they wanted to send a big FU to Microsoft, buying Rockstar with the Grand Theft Auto would be, and Red Dead, like, those kind of games.
Buy them and just own them. Leave them alone. They're doing fine. Don't interject. Just leave them alone.
Somebody in the TikTok chat saying they bought them in 2001. Jeez, that was a long time ago. We missed that.
Oh.
Can anyone remember the last time our laws against monopolies were actually enforced? Actually, Microsoft. They had the last... Microsoft was one of the big... They lost a big antitrust suit against the U.S. government over Internet Explorer.
Huh. Okay.
It was Internet Explorer. And that was the one that they finally were like, the government came in and smacked Microsoft down over whips out Amex. I'll buy Rockstar for $100 billion. Apparently Neuro has Rockstar Gold, or has the Amex Black Card with the unlimited budget.
Yes, he does.
I think your Amex might decline on that, though. And here's the thing. Do they charge you a credit card fee if you're paying for $100 billion?
I don't know. Tell us about that Amex. What's the perks?
Somebody else drops in there. I have not had a chance. Anyway.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah. Tell us what you guys think. By the way, if you have any topics you've seen today or yesterday and you want us to talk about in the chat today, drop them down in the chats on TikTok or on YouTube or on Twitch. We're streaming all 3 to live.
The cashback, though.
The cashback on your MX purchase of that. I haven't had a chance to look at the Commander Masters previews. I am sure it's going to be an interesting set. It comes out next month.
So expensive.
It is extremely expensive. We went over the pricing on it a while ago.
May I?
Yeah.
What were they thinking with this being so shortly after Lord of the Rings? Everybody's dry.
Well, you got to remember, Lord of the Rings was technically June. They're giving it 2 months.
Yeah, true. But dang, man.
They're giving it 2 months, and again, they're following their standard release cycle.
That's not untrue. All right. Just as someone who invested heavily in Lord of the Rings, seeing a set like that come up, I'm like, man.
Yeah, see, and chat's bringing up, Wilds of Eldraine is a month after Commander Masters. That's the one where I'm like, why are you releasing Wilds of Eldraine that fast?
How much money people got? Not to... Yeah, cool year for Magic as far as the game. Like, neat stuff. I just want to say that.
Oh, yeah. And like I said,
stuff.
the Lord of the Rings set is really, really good. Wilds is going to be better.
Give the Total War Warhammer team Lord of the Rings license already.
Somebody's saying something about a Polygon article. I'll take a look. I didn't see anything on Polygon about that.
Can I have an army of Uruk-hai?
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be cool.
Sadly, most of the news today is about Prime Day, and it's making me want to, like, throw things.
Amazon be spending that money to get you to spend the money.
Yep.
Buy our stuff that's left over in the warehouse.
Yeah, we've got so much stuff on there. I want more AD&D talk, not just that. How different is it from 5th? I haven't thought about AD&D. All right.
All right, you want to go?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go into this.
You record this, or you just want to...
Go ahead and record it. We'll see what we can get out of it.
We'll see how this goes.
We'll see how this goes.
Record.
Okay, so to answer your question, THAC0, which is one of the primary mechanics in the old Advanced Dungeons & Dragons thing, stands for 2-hit armor class 0. And the way that armor class used to work back in the olden days, right, armor class went from 10, which was the worst, to -10, which is the best, right?
Okay.
So the best armor class is -10. So if somebody has an armor class of 0, which is like heavy plate mail with a shield,
Yes.
right? Each character class has a THAC0, right? So if you're a fighter at level 1, your THAC0 is 20. At 2, it's 19, 18, 17, so on. So if your THAC0 is, let's say, 16, and somebody's wearing armor class 0 armor, to hit them, you must roll a 16 on a d20.
Okay.
Right? It's a straight 2-hit thingy, just like 5th edition is. If it is a negative number, you add it to your THAC0. Right?
Okay.
So the interesting thing is really if the DM is good, they'll give you the 2-hit number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the way that I go around it is I talk to the player. I'm like, all right, what's your THAC0? 18? Okay. You need a 15 to hit it.
Okay.
Right? Things like that, right? So it's really on the DM to just be able to do that math quickly in their head and know what the target is.
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
Right. Some of the other big differences between that is initiative. Now, the base rules for AD&D, and there's multiple alternate methods of doing initiative, is this. It's a D10, right?
Okay.
And it's per party. So interestingly, the way that it's supposed to function, right, is you are in your little combat thingy, right?
Yeah.
You're in your little skirmish. Before you roll initiative, everybody declares actions.
Okay.
So everybody on your side of the table, all the players go, okay, this is what I'm doing, 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 right? And you declare a base action, your base action that you're going to do for the round. The DM knows what the bad guys are going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Then you roll initiative, it's a D10, and one player rolls initiative for the group.
What?
Right?
Okay.
Okay? So Pete rolls initiative, for the group, and then the DM rolls initiative for the other side, and whoever wins the initiative, all of their people go at once. That is the base initiative rule.
That could cause some problems. Oof.
Now, if you read the combat section, it will tell you that there are alternate forms of initiative. You can do individual player initiative.
Yeah.
Right? But again, you're still supposed to declare actions before you roll initiative. And you roll initiative every combat round.
Okay. Yep. I am a fan of that.
Right.
I mean, not for the speed of the game, but in general, mechanics-wise, like, I am a fan of that as a representation of fighting and readiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is the real big things. Really, it's part of it is tonal and part of it is mechanical. The big differences between AD&D and D&D, and this is something I was talking with some of our people about the other night, right? Since Wizards acquired TSR from TSR, since they bought TSR,
yeah.
Each subsequent edition of Dungeons & Dragons has gotten slightly less deadly, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point of 5th edition, where a lot of people feel it's the MCU of Dungeons & Dragons, right? It's actually pretty difficult to kill a player character, right? In 5th edition. It's not designed to be a hyper-deadly system. It's just not, right?
Okay.
Whereas 2nd edition, your average wizard starts with D4 hit points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? A dagger is a danger to a wizard.
There is some clear danger.
Right.
Walking into a dungeon wearing a dress.
Especially in the early levels, right? Those first 4 or 5 levels, Dungeons & Dragons is very, very deadly.
Yeah.
So, and one of the reasons we're doing this is I've actually had quite a few people, words are hard, quite a few people around the store who are like forever DMs or players in D&D, and they're like, there's no tension, right? And a lot of the players who've only played 5th edition have this sense of not really feeling any consequences for their actions.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? And so, consequently, they just tend to go running blindly into every combat, like,
Yeah.
Right? Which is fair. It's an option.
If there's no consequences or minimal consequences, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, this is one of those ones where I was like, yeah. Like, all right, you want to try something different? You want to do some stuff?
Yeah.
This is different. I also don't think 5th edition is great for dungeon crawling. It's just not, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, in my opinion, 5e, I don't really care for the combat in it. If the combat in 5e goes past like 2 to 3 rounds, I'm kind of, personally, I get into the point where I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, we're gonna win it. And that's kind of what you were talking about, where there's like no danger. Like, it's a foregone conclusion that maybe I'll get hurt a little bit, but we're gonna win it. Mm-hmm. And why are we rolling these dice for 45 minutes for an encounter type of thing?
Yeah.
But also that's a me thing too, in that ADHD. I'm just like, I get it. I know the end result. New stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
And again, it's a lack of tension. Dungeons & Dragons also very much incentivizes you to have a very well-rounded party.
Yes.
Right? It's one of those things where, and a lot of people are like, well, it punishes you. I'm like, no, it just really incentivizes. Because here's the thing. If you roll in with a whole group of just fighters, you're in trouble. Right? Okay? Yeah. Wander into the dungeon that way. I wish you luck.
Old school, yeah. New school, and a lot of DMs, and I like it to an extent, are like, rule of cool. Play all fighters, bring bandages.
Yeah.
Which there's a certain element of fun and coolness to that, but again, in the grand scheme of things with 5e, it's like, well, I know we're gonna end up winning.
Yes.
Type of thing. And that's not to harsh on anybody's vibe or anything like that.
No, and again, and you and I, and we're going to be putting out, I don't know when Pete's going to do it, but we got a YouTube exclusive video based on some stuff that happened in the chat yesterday, and some stuff where we talk about critique, right? And we did another video where we talked about critique in tabletop RPGs, and last night we talked about it again. And this will be a YouTube exclusive video, so keep your eyes on the YouTube channel for this one. Pete and I recorded it yesterday late afternoon.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about 5e or 3.0 or 3.5, I am not saying anything that I'm saying to be like, these things suck. Those things generally don't exist in my vocabulary. No. I am not doing that. No, everybody's starting at level 1. Level 1. The whole point is to start you guys at level 1.
You're getting off the hook.
Nope, everybody's starting at level 1. For a couple of reasons. One, it makes character creation easier. We don't have to go through all the steps to get everybody to level 5. And 2, because that's the point. And it's about earning that experience. 5th edition is designed for a specific type of thing. Somebody in the chat brought up the Matt Mercer effect. That has nothing to do with the Matt Mercer effect. The Matt Mercer effect, specifically when people talk about the Matt Mercer effect, and you can definitely have some debates as to whether it's real or not. The Matt Mercer effect is when players who kind of came in through Critical Role, and that's their first exposure to D&D, and their first exposure to tabletop RPGs, that when they sit down at a table, they think every DM is Matt Mercer. And is at that level.
Yeah, that's a thing that I've seen in like DM subreddits too, of the pressure. It's put pressure on DMs, and like I feel like I have to have a whole like fantasy novel series like prepared before session 1.
And be able to do all the voices, and be able to act and do all this stuff, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's put a lot of pressure on DMs whenever, and the feedback on that subreddit is usually like, nope, just dive some dungeons.
You know, I've seen some like D&D horror stories where people are like, I stopped DMing because I was at my game shop and everybody wanted me to be Matt Mercer, right? I've seen some of that. Again, you can debate whether the Matt Mercer effect is real or not. I know Matt Mercer has addressed it. I know Matt Mercer said, no, players, stop thinking that everybody's going to be me, right?
Well, everyone wants, let's say this, there's popularity that happens, and then there's that is considered the gold standard, and everybody wants to emulate that and be that, and they think I can do that. To that ability, who knows, maybe better, and they'll start doing that. Whereas it's like, you don't have to. It's okay to go in and dive some dungeons and get the loot and be like, loot, I did it.
As somebody who has literally done this professionally for years now, I've done actual play podcasts, I've done an actual play stream. I will tell you right now, I am no Matt Mercer, and I'm not trying to be. It's hard to do. And so you shouldn't expect yourself to be Matt Mercer.
Also a reminder, that's his job. He's a voice actor, but it's literally his job.
Will you grab that one out of chat? I want to talk about that in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So somebody else said something there. As a DM, it's very difficult to create a merchant. That's true. And actually, here's actually a topic we can talk about that maybe we'll turn into a topic. Dungeons & Dragons has admitted and very much realizes there is a DM shortage right now. There is a distinct DM shortage right now, right? There are not enough DMs to go around in the Dungeons & Dragons universe.
I feel like this links to what we were just talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so Dungeons & Dragons has admitted this, right? Wizards of the Coast knows this. And it's a problem. Now, some of their solution to this has been making the rules as accessible and easy to use as possible, which is why D&D Beyond, that's where a lot of their focus into D&D Beyond is. That's where their focus into their virtual tabletop is coming from, is let's make this as simple as possible for the DMs so that we get more people to be DMs. There is an argument that the Matt Mercer effect is pushing away a lot of DMs. There's also the sense that the DM is responsible for all of the fun in the session.
Yes.
And if you're not having fun, it's the dungeon master's fault.
If you're not having your brand of fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, the cost for DMs is tenfold compared to the cost of player. Yes and no. So, and again, each player group is going to be a little bit different, right? Each player group is going to be a little bit different. I know when I was young and didn't have a lot of money, right? We all took turns buying books.
Yeah.
right?
Like, yeah, that makes sense.
The expectation for our group of friends was never that one person has to be the only one buying all the books,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that is where all of your money goes if you're buying all the books yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's wrong for people to be like, okay, hey, group, we're going to run this campaign and I got to buy this box set to run this campaign. Everybody kick in $10.
Yeah.
Right? So the cost shouldn't be tenfold for the DMs compared to the player, because if that's the case, your group of friends sucks.
I mean,
I've
had that group of friends, yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, the DM shortage comes from a lot of different places. And again, I think part of it is player expectation. Part of it is there are a lot of new people to the hobby. I think a lot of it is there's a lot of people who, again, whether you want to call it because of the members factor, stuff like that, there are a lot of people who just don't feel like they have the skill or understanding to be DMs. This is something that I tell people all the time, which is you don't know squat to be a DM. Make it up.
Yeah. Yes. And that goes back to like the pressure to have everything pre-planned out and all this. Listen, not everyone needs to be George R.R. Martin. Not everyone needs to be Tolkien.
No.
The one of the best recommendations I've seen is like, hey, go dive some dungeons, because guess what? Half your players potentially are probably going to drop off after a while anyway. Mm-hmm. So just run some dungeons, make like a 3 or 4 room dungeon, run them, have a session, get some loot, yada yada, and after 3 or 4 sessions, if people are sticking around, start cooking up some ideas. You don't have to have 15 threads going at once. You can have 2 quality threads interweaving into a story is better than 15 threads going at once that you can't keep track of, and then 10 of them fizzle away, and then a player asks about it, you're like, oh gosh, now I got to hotshot something and throw it in there. That creates confusion and puts more pressure on you.
Yeah, exactly. And, there is also a lack of published materials these days. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, Wizards does not put out 4 modules a month anymore. You know what I mean? Like, nobody, like, if your idea of DMing, which used to be kind of a thing, was, I'm just going to take pre-published modules, only from Wizards, right? Then you don't have much material to run. Now, there is the DMs Guild, where you can find modules, but the thing is that your mileage may vary. You know what I mean? Some of that stuff will be, really, really good, and some of it will be hot garbage, and you won't know until you open it up. There's pre-written dungeons as a stepping stone, so to speak. They do exist.
So you can grab them, Sir Phallus, from different
game stores,
different versions. There's actually a lot of like homebrew stuff that people will put out on Drift through RPG for free, or
DM's Guild,
small price DM Guild. And they are, if you don't want to make a story, there's some really, really good ones out there.
But again, there's no way to really know until you download it. That's the problem.
That's true. Or you can do like the tried and true ones, like what is it, the Ravenloft and stuff like that.
Yeah, real basic stuff. Mm-hmm. So, it is an issue. It's one that Dungeons and Dragons is trying to figure out. I honestly don't know what the solution is. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think, Pete? Like, what do you think would solve the not enough DMs problem that they've gotten?
I don't have a simple solution. I think
if you're sitting in Wizards' boardroom and their player acquisition team's going, hey, how do we get more people to DM?
DM starter adventures? I don't know. For them, I don't know. I think it's kind of a societal problem. We all want to be Critical Role. Everyone, like, what was one of the, whenever we first started this, let's peek behind the curtain here. When we first started, and mentioned actual plays. What was one of the first comments? I want this to be Critical Role level. And that's not to like harsh on anyone.
No.
But I had to be like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. That was my initial reaction was like, oh, hang on. Because that's what everybody wants to create stuff, and they want it to be to that standard. And I think it's not just D&D, it's kind of just where we are societally is everybody wants to make some crazy good stuff because there's so much accessible. So as far as like what does Wizards do, I don't know. But it's just kind of a societal thing.
So there's a couple things in the chat here that I want to chop on here, right? Store support. There is no store support. Wizards does not want to give store support for Dungeons and Dragons.
Bro, can I just say they suck?
This is actually contrary to everything that D&D is trying to do. In fact, I was watching a video yesterday because they're talking about now if you go to Wizards' website, they used to have the store locator, right? Mm-hmm. It's gone.
Okay.
And now it's all bundles.
We sell their products. We sell Magic. But as far as like local game stores, Wizards sucks for us. They are just, they have no consideration for local game stores and small shops.
So if I go to products.
You know what? I just thought of a good idea for a DM. An easy way to generate an adventure. If you can find them. Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure.
They still have the locator on there. That's good.
Okay. Pick up a Choose Your Own Adventure book. Flip through it. Use that as some inspiration.
D&D Beyond is what they're seeing as their golden goose. That's absolutely true.
There you go.
It's absolutely true.
Thank you, Odious. Yes.
That's what they want. They don't. There is no incentive right now for Dungeons and Dragons to. I would if I could actually sell Choose Your Own Adventure books. There is no incentive for them to support game stores with D&D anymore. There is for Magic, and they do. And I will say, right? So let's be fair to Wizards. Their store support for Magic the Gathering is top tier, right? The promos they send, the stuff that they give to us for free, right? As being, and by free I put that in air quotes, in that we still buy product from them and we're a WPN store. But the fact of the matter is that the stuff that they send into the store that we get for promotions, for those things, for Magic is great. The first conversation I had with Wizards when we became a WPN store is, okay, cool. That's all the store support for Magic. What's the store support for Dungeons and Dragons? Mm-hmm. And the answer from Wizards of the Coast was, there is none. Okay? Now, they occasionally will send stuff. In fact, I'll pull this up because I've got it right here. So they sent us this, and I didn't even know what this was when I first started looking at it. I had to look at it. This is legit.
I'm surprised it's still there.
It's a little starter kit for like people who have never played D&D before.
Yeah. For
you to run a short, like 30, 40-minute session.
Yeah.
Just to teach somebody how to play D&D. That's it. Right?
Okay.
This is one of like 3 things that we've gotten in almost 2 years of being a business that are in any way supportive of Dungeons and Dragons.
Which that's cool, that right there, but more.
Yeah.
More of that.
There is no incentive for them. Okay. Quite frankly, and again, while I don't think they will ever get away from selling collector's books, whatever D&D 5, 6 poopity pants, like they've said that they're going to. They said that they're going to release with the revised version of 5e. They're going to release new core books. I don't know how long that's going to last. And I'll tell you right now, if Wizards could get away with never, ever selling another physical book again besides collector's editions,
they would.
They would. Somebody in the TikTok chat says, got to make a competitor for Wizards. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Pathfinder had a big resurgence earlier in the year because of the OGL thing.
But they're not anywhere close to Wizards' numbers.
Yeah, it's a pretty small piece of the pie. I think it reached like double digits percentage, and everybody was like, "Ooh, look at that!"
So, and there was an article I read the other day because I'm talking about this, and the fact of the matter is that there is zero, and I mean none, reliable industry data for the tabletop RPG industry. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It does not exist. It does not exist. Therefore, the idea that you're going to build a business plan where you could actually make a run at trying to compete with Wizards of the Coast, there's no way to write the business plan. You have no idea what you have to do, right? My guess is you would have to basically light anywhere from $20 to $40 million on fire to get to those numbers.
We're talking about virtual books, right?
We're talking about digital. That's the way they're going. Yeah.
Yeah. So a thought that occurred to me is, for me personally, I'm going to speak personally. I like Pathfinder. The second edition of Pathfinder, I think, is a good change. For me, D&D is a very in-person thing. I've tried playing it over Discord a few times, and it works. It's just kind of not the same experience. The way I learned D&D was there was a local video store in Kentucky that my friend managed, and whenever I went to learn D&D, my buddy was like, "You know what? I'm the manager. Come in after hours, and we'll sit around a table and play. We have snacks. Just pay for the snacks, please." Yeah. And that was awesome. It was too many people, but it whittled down. But being there in person, once I figured out how to play, it was so cool. And I feel like I can't quite recapture that magic over a video call, although it is cool. Now, my point in saying that is that if you go all digital and you don't support game stores, but then you Pikachu face whenever there's no DMs, it's like, well, you've eliminated or ignored two very large parts of the experience of D&D.
Well, and that was actually another thing that relates to something else I saw the other day. Somebody was like, somebody should create a Match.com for finding an RPG group.
It's called Reddit, but yeah.
But
yes.
I mean, you know what I mean. But something that had map locator and things like that. The problem with that concept is it existed before. It was game stores. There's no. You used to be able to have those community spaces to find those steps.
There is one. I knew about Obsidian Portal for a while, but I don't know if they still do that. If you have one, let us know.
Meetup.com or Facebook groups. And again, that's dicey. Yeah. There's not all of them are kind of lacking in some sort of support. That involves actually really nice to meet people. That's terrifying. And that's the thing. And again, I see a lot of people who are like, I want to play, but I need to find a different group. Or I hear a lot about people who are stuck in toxic gaming groups because they have nobody else to game with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that really sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I learned in an age, right after smartphones came out, right? So my phone only sent text. So there was, virtual was not going to be a thing. And I consider myself lucky to have learned in that time. But yeah, small town though. Once that group fell apart, it's I tried to learn 3.5 in 2003, but there was one person in my town that I knew of that could teach me. So it just, it's
actually, the funny thing is somebody's talking about free subs for stores for D&D Beyond and things like that. And that actually got brought up at their big creator summit. And they were like, we don't know how to do it. And I was like, yes, you do. You already do it for Magic. It's...
I'd rather not play than play with people I don't like. Yeah. That's fair.
That's totally fair.
We had a brief discussion about this yesterday. You're putting a lot into your character and spending a lot of time at a table with someone. That's fair.
And here's the thing, with the push to the digital version with D&D Beyond, even if you're playing in a store, you're playing in person, they still want everybody on D&D Beyond. The issue is that stores are going to stop supporting Dungeons and Dragons as much, or they're going to have to start charging for space because they don't make any money off of D&D, right? And I tweeted this the other day. Right after we had that bump in tabletop RPG sales after the whole OGL fiasco, tabletop RPG sales are in the toilet. Again.
Huh. Well,
I have more probably indie and small press tabletop RPGs than probably anywhere else in the state, and nobody buys it. Nobody buys it.
I guess
Tabletop RPG sales in general are down, right?
Right. I guess so. I'm trying to I feel like we're just ragging on D&D and the decisions here, and I want to kind of lift it up out of that negative hole, even though it's kind of a shit show right now in general of D&D. I'm curious, chat, what do you all what's your favorite way or preferred way to find a gaming group? What would make you trust that you could sit at a table with these people and play and not be ridiculed for role playing or your choices or whatever, that you would vibe with them? I'm really curious. Because, I think the solution is you would go to your game store and then, you make friends, acquaintances over time, you get invited and you go. But I'm curious from a player standpoint who's not initiating that, what would make you comfortable in that? Hanging out with the Twitch community?
Yeah. I know I met a lot of people through work, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just chatting at work and then you eventually find out that they actually play role-playing games too.
Yeah.
And things like that. I've done a lot of con games.
Yeah.
And a lot of cons, you can meet people. Conventions are actually a really good place to try and meet people.
Yes.
Also a great chance to play a con game with somebody, and if they're a edgelord little butthead, then you never have to see them again. But if they're good role players, then you can go talk to somebody.
Yeah. I sat in on a one shot that Mallow ran at ECC, and I was just like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. This worked out really nice.
Yeah, and you, again, coworkers is a big one. Microsoft has nerd forums and D&D parties on campus. That does not surprise me even one little tiny bit.
The last company I worked for had a after hours D&D sessions on Wednesdays, but I don't want to stay at work late. So
sometimes you're lucky you got kids, you might meet some cool parents. We actually just recently met some cool parents through our child that live right around the corner from us. I think it's going to be another 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and we're going to start seeing how the industry is going to change. Okay, our resident scientist is in the chat, and we do trust Dr. Nero. Here to say that the thing is incumbent upon existing stable social group that are mentally on the same page. You get the occasional anomaly of folks who do find games and groups that they jive with, but the majority of folks, especially those outside of traditional gaming circles, have an extremely difficult time of establishing this. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can trust him. He's a brain scientist.
Yes.
A brain doctor.
I would like somebody to define stable for me, though.
That was the truncated version. Feel free to give us the untruncated version if you want to.
So I'm going to go back to the comment somebody made in chat earlier. The comment they made was, the problem I'm finding is DMs are afraid to tell their players no. The DM has gotten what they say goes. Okay, so this is a very old school way of looking at dungeon mastering, right? That used to be very much how DMing used to be looked at, right? Nowadays, with the way that people tend to play, right, it tends to be looked at as a more collaborative, group-run dynamic, right? So I find that that's more of an issue with younger people, right? is people not being able to set boundaries and things like that. Again, there must be a level of trust there, right? People talk about mechanics, and this is something I tell new GMs and DMs about mechanics. And this is something I try to establish with the group, right? And it's a rule I learned a long time ago, because when I was very young, I used to get into rules lawyery fights with my rules lawyer friends all the stinking time.
Of course.
Here's the thing. In the moment, while we're playing the game, GMs make a ruling. Players, you got to trust your GM, right? Don't be a jerk, but make a ruling. Now, after the session, I invite people to go, hey, let's look at the rule together.
Yeah.
Right?
Discuss,
and then we'll fix it for next time.
Yep.
Right? That's the thing. And so, to a certain degree, yes, the DM or GM should be able to be like, hey, look, for the sake of the story, for the sake of keeping the session moving, for the sake of not derailing us for 15 minutes while we look through 3 different books to try and find this rule, make a decision. Players, you got to trust your GM a little bit, and then move on. And then after the session, fix it later if the GM turns out to be incorrect.
That's a great point, is getting into rules spats during the game. Like, hey, this time, just roll with it. We'll have a discussion afterwards, and if it ends up being like I was wrong and you're right, like we'll correct it next session. Yeah. And that's fine. Like just roll with it.
Exception to that rule would be TPKs.
Bobo Fett made a comment, which great name. That's been my roadblock for a while, is playing games with people I just met instead of just my brother. Yes, and that's why we try to like take, I guess, a simple version, take people to the store and be like, play games.
Yes.
And then we have table rules that the DMs will read at the very beginning, which sounds scary, but it's really
we will fix it in post. Yes.
We'll fix it in post, exactly. But like table rules, when the DM's reading them, they sound scary whenever they're reading off a list, and it's really not. Like, it's kind of common sense stuff, and it can be intimidating, but like
everyone has a dark vision.
It's just to make sure that there's boundaries in place, and to make sure that you can play with new people without being worried that you're going to be attacked or have some altercation for no reason. Just to make sure people are respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody's like, hey, I brought this up in a couple Facebook groups and got called everything from boomer to tyrant. So there is some definite generational differences based on when you started role-playing and who you role-play with, and kind of like what era you started in, okay? Especially with the extreme popularity of Dungeons & Dragons now, I would say a very large plurality, if not a majority of current D&D players started in 5th edition.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been about 10 years, we said.
Yep.
Close to it. That makes
so
sense.
They probably started in 5th edition when that was not the social norm, right? Was the DM is the DM for a reason, or I'm the DM, I run the session, right? Kind of, again, going back to the 70s and 80s and the initial start of AD&D and things like that, that was the mentality, right?
Eddie in Stranger Things, that is how it used to be.
That is absolutely how it used to be.
Oh, I can't make it. Okay, Eddie, what do you think? It's his story.
Yep. The generation gap makes me. I'm not weeping for the future of gaming or tabletop RPGs. I'm just warning people that there is a distinct difference, right? It is not the same for everyone, right? And we do have to be understanding. And again, this is why I'm running an AD&D game tonight, is there's been a lot of people who are primarily 5th edition players who've been like, this is a thing in 5th edition that bugged them. I'm like, go back. We're going to go back in time, and I'm going to show you the difference, right? Mechanically.
Rocks fall, everyone dies. Yeah, don't do that to your players. Unless they're just... Yeah, unless you're like, we're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Bye.
Game stores have a critical role in matchmaking, getting people together to play. I wish that was still the case, right? I wish that was still the case. Again, I don't feel like that's really a thing anymore. You know what I mean? Especially for tabletop RPGs. It's difficult. Really, it's going to be, I meet people who play tabletop RPGs because I'm playing Magic or Warhammer, we happen to talk about tabletop RPGs. You know, I don't want to play in a game where everyone argues with the DM. And again, part of that is experience. The DM needs to understand how to, for lack of a better term, manage the table.
Well, that also, and I saw Dog Dad earlier mention that they have a hard time DMing because remembering all the rules and everything like that. When I DM'd my first group last year, it was via Discord because they live in Europe. But they're like, hey, can you teach us? And I stuck to two things. Three things. There's attack rolls, which like, hey, know the stats of your weapons. It's on the paper. Fine. But mainly rolls for like strength check. Those are easy. Roll a d20, add your strength mod. And then skill checks. Roll a d20, add your skill number. And they had a great time, and that's all we had. That's what I stuck to. They were like, what about this number and this number and this? And I was like, if you want to do that, like whenever we go to these checks and these mechanics and stuff, you can call it out if you want to of like, oh, but I have a this and this, then we'll do that. But to keep it going and for the sake of simplicity and enjoyment, let's just stick with our skills, the attribute modifiers, and your weapon stuff.
Yeah.
That's all we need. And they seem like they had a good time.
What about a DM boot camp where stores can get DMs started and give them a space in the store for practice? I would love to do something like that. And I actually think it would be a good thing. No one will pay for it.
What?
No one will pay for it.
Pay for what?
A DM boot camp. Like, I think it's a cool idea, right? Or like a DM workshop or a DM class or something.
Here's the thing.
You know,
I think on its own maybe, but if people pay for it, I think given what we just talked about people's tendencies now to argue with the DM, you would get, I'm paying for this and I disagree, and then you would have a pissing match in the middle of the boot camp.
You could.
Not to like cast a negative light on it, but it's a creative endeavor and everyone has a different idea of how things should be done.
Yes, very much so.
So I DM'd my first group, and the players ended up arguing about the scientific medical validity of certain things, to which I said, it's magical, shush. There you go. There you go.
You throw a boot at dissenters. Again, I like the idea of a DM, you know, symposium or a DM workshop. And you'll see panels at cons about, you know, DM tips and tricks. There's YouTube channels about stuff you can do to make your DMing better.
I like Matthew Colefield's channel and Ginny D.
Ginny D. I used to really dislike her. I've started to like her channel more. I used to just be kind of middling on Ginny D, and then I was like, you know what? The issue that I had with her, it was like, I'm like, this is not content for me. She is not making content for somebody who's been playing role-playing games for 25 years.
No.
She's making content for people who started in
She's a great advocate for like, 5e. Hey, who gives a shit? Roll some dice.
Yes.
You'll learn as you do it. And also, you know, be respectful to one another. Just like I can get along with those tenets.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a lot of D&D talk today.
It is a lot of D&D talk. We can keep going if you guys want to.
Yeah, Methuselah, we kind of covered that earlier, right? Don't argue at the table. Talk about it later. That's the best way to do it. Unless it's a TPK, then yeah, fix it. Then you do, right? So, like I said, I'm looking forward to running this AD&D sessions because I think it's going to be interesting for people to see the stark difference.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also think it's good exposure for people. Like when we wrote Identica, one of the things, like I looked at so many different books, so many different mechanics, right? So many different games. And that's the thing too. And I think that's one of the things that gets people frustrated a little bit is there are a lot of really super games out there that have mechanics that are built in a way to you know, push the story forward and to be good for that style of story, right? As opposed to trying to, you know, shove square peg in round hole with everything 5e.
I do want to give some shout out to you and Mallow. One of my favorite things, and this is one thing that I talked about at ECCC. People were like, well, how's it different? And I was like, well, I'll just tell you one thing that I love is the combat against the DM, not a set DC. DM rolls a d20 against you in combat.
Yeah, it's the opposed.
I love
checks.
that. It makes it more interactive rather than me running up and being like, what's the DC on that light if I hit it with a sword? 5? If that sword was, or if that light were to sprout arms, then, well, there's a lot going on there.
Are you a mimic, Mr. Light?
Yes. Yes.
So this is the other thing people talk. See how a great DM runs. Define a great DM. This is one of my issues that I have with, again, expectation of DMs, right? What defines a great dungeon master, a great game runner? By the way, speaking of identical in games, now that I'm thinking about it because you brought that up, go see Pete and Taylor tonight.
Oh yeah,
on twitch.tv/Identico. They are starting our new show. The new show starts tonight at 6 p.m. So if you are not in the store, you all should go watch. If you can't make it in, go watch them on Twitch tonight. It's the first episode of Neon Trails.
Yes.
And again, tonight, twitch.tv/Identico.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much away. Yes.
There's a bunch of stuff on Twitter about it. Like, there's the character bios and stuff like that on Twitter. But
you know how a lot of Identico is set in like the cityscapes, cyberpunk, yada yada. This is in the wastes. This is in the middle America, in the freaking desert, and there's a lot of shenanigans that's gonna happen. So.
Yeah, type that out. Do we type into TikTok chat? Twitch.tv/IDENTECO. TikTok.
There we go.
You can is this going to be weekly tonight? Which thing is going to be weekly?
It's every
so there now will be on the Identico channel, there will now be a show every Tuesday. So Neon Trails starts tonight. Chaos Inc. comes back next Tuesday. Right? Yes.
Yep.
And then they will alternate Tuesdays going forward. So
yes.
Season 3 of Chaos Inc. starts next Tuesday on the 18th. So
thought it would be in the south. I mean, I don't know what part of the middle.
So if you haven't read, Identico, there is no Dust Bowl of Middle America. There is a series of irradiated craters.
Yeah.
About 30 of them.
I've already made the decision that slowly but surely, because I'm in a weird spot, but slowly but surely I'm just going to gradually start unmasking my accent. Because we've had this discussion, I know. I started masking my accent around the age of 12.
Yeah.
Because I knew it would hold me back. Yeah. Because of society and the things like that.
So you're just going to let it go for this show?
I am going to do my best to let it go. So the longer it goes on, the more you may hear the Southern sugar come out.
Nice.
But I mean, we watch like a lot of History Channel stuff, and there's astrophysicist from Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's a professor at the University of Alabama. He's a very smart guy, but he talks like this, and even as a Southerner, I'm like, brother, that's
hectic.
That's really hindering your progress here, or your presentation. But so even I'd have a bias against it, but I'm gonna try to start letting it down.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be interested to hear that. A great DM creates an immersive experience that pulls engagement from the players. Look, all of those things in that definition are true. I think the issue there is how do you quantify it?
I think you'd have to survey people.
Yeah.
And ask them, like, what do you
And that's
like
the other thing, again, this goes back to our continuous discussion about critique. A lot of players are afraid, right, to critique a DM.
Yeah.
Right? B, a lot of DMs don't want to take critique or take it too harshly.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's awkward.
It is. Right? And I'm not really sure how to fix that.
Everyone's setting their egos to the side whenever a game starts.
Yeah.
I tell you what, here's what I would recommend. If there is not this person at the table, be that person. I told you about whenever we played Powered by Apocalypse, Monster of the Week with Lev, and Magic Taylor played. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to play Bunny Boy, and I was ready to like do some light RP. And it was kind of like, yeah, how's everybody going to do this? Magic Taylor came in, whipped out his Alaskan accent, and just went for it right out the gate. Like, oh, hey there. So reading comic books, and he was acting it out to the point where I asked him, I was like, were you a theater kid in high school and college? He's like, no. But it set the tone for the table and
It
immediately
absolutely
made
does.
everyone more comfortable.
Yes.
Be that over-the-top person if you want everyone to RP and do voices.
Yeah.
Be the person that does it, and if people don't like it, fuck them, you don't have to play with them anymore. And maybe that's not the style that you want to play. But be that person to break the ice, if no one else is going to break the ice. In my case, luckily, Taylor was there to break the ice way better than what I could have. And it just made it so much more comfortable. So I guess what I'm saying is be the change you want to see.
If you can't take criticism, you really shouldn't be a DM. That's probably true.
Ooh.
That's probably true. I'm saying that this is, and we're kind of circling around here.
It's okay.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, but this is kind of, we keep circling this topic, which is how do you, markedly improve the tabletop RPG community, the groups as a whole, in a positive manner. And that's, again, we have a DM shortage. Why do we have a DM shortage? Because a lot of people get nervous about it. But how do you get better? With honest critique. But the issue is critique is not taken a lot of ways. And again, you and I were talking about this off stream yesterday before we made by the way, the YouTube exclusive video, which will be coming out later this week. Which is, and again, go watch our video on critique and tabletop RPGs. That it's so difficult. We're so primed to be angry about everything. You know what I mean? And everybody just jumps at it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't know how we get past that. And I just don't know.
Just had a thought in it.
Words and it goes away. Bye.
Bye thought. It left. How about let's start here.
I have too much words on this thought.
Let's start here. Doing content creation as long as I have, and asking for feedback. If you're, and this goes for DMing too, and just creative ventures. If your feedback is, I just don't like it, or it sucks.
That's not feedback.
That's not feedback, and it's not constructive, and that doesn't contain a nugget of anything that I can take and fix. If you're like, I don't really like the lighting, it seems a little dark, or the microphones are too low, or like it's fuzzy, I can't hear it. Those I can fix. If you're talking to a DM and they're like, well, what can I fix? And you're just like, I just don't like it. Like, that's not really helpful. If you're just like, hey, like combat's dragging a little bit, like it goes on a little long, that's something that they can work on. So give constructive feedback, and not just in DMing, but really if you're like any critique, give some constructiveness to it.
Really good, so the tips and tricks for rendering mechanics. Really good GM screens will have a lot of them on there.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually more so than the role hiding thing. One of the reasons I used to love having a DM screen or GM screen was my reference charts.
Yeah.
Right, like actions on objective and things like that.
Charts.
Like there's a lot of good reference material on a well-designed GM screen for those mechanics to keep like that stuff going. So that's one of the things that I really, really like is a really good GM screen will really help with a lot of that mechanical issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If it's a TikTok chat, if it's not constructive, don't listen to it. Yeah, that's actually, if you want your voice to be heard, just being like, it sucks, that's immediately out of my head. I'm just like, garbage bin, can't use that.
Yep.
And if you want to insult my content or DMing, if that is your goal, be specific, because I mean I can fix that too. But be specific, because that'll be the way to really dig, because that'll stay in there a little longer versus it sucks. Come on.
Yeah. In the Twitch chat, yes, a good DM screen solves a lot of those mechanical issues.
Yeah, no.
Again, if they're really well designed, or you can do custom ones. Like they make ones that like you can slide little inserts into, right, for what you need.
Yep.
And I love those.
So behind the DM screen, I know a lot of DMs that I know, the DM screen is bifold, right? So it's doot, doot, and doot. Some of them will actually keep their book propped up inside the DM screen, but you don't see it because of the DM screen.
Yeah. Oh no, I love a good DM screen. Have I seen the new Smosh video? I have not yet. I did watch 2 trailers this morning to see how they were going. I watched the Willy Wonka trailer because I am curious how they're going to do that with Timothée Chalamet. And they just released a new Ahsoka trailer for the final. I think it's going to be the last. This will be the last trailer they release.
Joe will be so happy
before the show comes out in a month, in August 23rd. It looks really good. Like I'm excited for the Ahsoka show. Yep. If they can stick the landing,
it can be good. Oh yeah, a good tablet app will resolve a lot of problems too, or a laptop. Control F is the shortcut for find.
And again, this is the upside to PDFs, and again, I know we go back and forth on this a lot. The upside to digital versions of PDFs is that search function, right? I have both digital versions. I'm going to bring in my well-worn copy of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the Player's Handbook, with me tonight when we come in at 6 o'clock. When people come in, it is a very, very, very well-worn copy of the AD&D 2nd edition book. It's very, very... I need some duct tape.
Duct tape. Oh, my God.
I watched the first episode of the Vending Machine Isekai anime. Enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, we need to look into that.
Yes, we do. God.
Where are we located? We're located in Lynnwood, Washington. 5116 196th Street Southwest in Lynnwood.
Wow.
That's right, TikTok.
Wow.
That's where we are.
If you Google Gamers Heaven PNW, it will also give you like straight up the address. That's not been like, well, you should just Google it. No, just some businesses that won't pop up, we pop up.
If you're on the opposite coast, the original Gamers Heaven is in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
That's true.
So you can go there. And there's also one in South Florida.
Also true.
So, there you go. There's a bunch. All my AD&D books disintegrated to a lot of views. Yes. It's probably the closest we're going to get to Heir to the Empire. My question is if the Jedi guy is Jorah Sabaoth, like, then I'm going to be like, all right, I'm throwing my hands up here.
Did you say Jorah's mouth?
Sabaoth.
Sabaoth?
Yeah. He was the Jedi clone in the original Heir to the Empire book with Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Star Wars names just in...
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Names are hard enough in like my native.
Jorah the Explorers. Nice. Again, I'm looking forward to the Ahsoka show. So I think it's going to be good. It's actually a good year for entertainment this year.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I've heard the new Mission Impossible is very, very good. I'm back on my no Tom Cruise movies, but I've heard it's very good. I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to. I'm really looking at the suggestion I got made to me, which was do the Oppenheimer Barbie double feature.
Yes. Yeah.
Come out of Oppenheimer and immediately go watch Barbie, so that you don't want to.
Yes.
You know.
Light palate cleanser, lighten the mood for the rest of your day.
Lighten the mood. The first reactions for the Barbie movie are out though because they had the.
Oh.
Yes.
Is it? Good.
Multiple people saying Ryan Gosling needs to be nominated for an Academy Award for this role.
I mean, it's Ryan Gosling.
He plays Ken.
Yeah, he's good. He's just good.
Apparently, it's smarter, better, and just overall, just like I have yet to see a negative reaction to this film.
Good. That's exciting.
We've talked about this a lot. Again, this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed The Truman Show in my younger years when it came out, and I see stuff like that. For the longest time, it wasn't really being done very much. And I was just like, I would really like some more of this concept expanded upon. And so I'm hoping that scratches that itch a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
All right, folks, 1 o'clock. We're going to let you go. Don't forget, we open today at 3 o'clock. So, check the Discord.
Yeah. Discord.com.gg/whatever.
Yes. Go to ghpnw.com. You can find all our Discord information there. Check the Discord. Don't forget, trivia on Thursday. Draft night tomorrow night. God, there's so many things going on. It's bananas around here.
Go there. There's a link.
There you go. All right. So get over here tonight, and we'll see you guys. If Barbie gets Best Actress or Actor for Marvel or Star Wars, I won't, because, again, Greta Gerwig might get Best Screenplay for this one. And she's already been nominated for that before. So, anyway, bye, everybody.
Bye. The ending song and the ending screen. Oh, yeah, it's the ending song. You don't have to be a forever DM. DMing can be easy or it can be hard. Just depends on what you want. Get some cards. Oh, see what I did there? Get some data cards and a DM screen. Something, something, something. You don't gotta be green. Hey, bye.
Que foi você mesma que veio dia me procurar. E não é nada fácil eu agora me acostumar a não te ver, a não te ver e não poder te beijar. Sinto saudades, mas não tem nada não. Você tem razão, que de confusão. Não se vive não, não vou procurar, nem telefonar. Tudo vai passar, viu? Só quero lhe dizer que eu amei você. E só vim pra cá, pra te encontrar.